Hello guys, and welcome to my Cambridge English Advanced reading paper course. In this video lesson we're going to be focusing on part 6 of the reading paper. So you're going to learn the best tips, technique and strategy to use for part 6, and we're also going to do some practice examples using a sample reading and use of English paper. Okay, so part 6 is called cross-text multiple matching. And it looks a bit like this. You have to choose which option you think is correct, A, B, C or D, for questions 37 to 40. So how many questions are there in total? You can see here there are 4 questions. How many texts do you need to read? 4 texts. How many options can you choose from? 4 options. A, B, C or D. You have to choose which question fits with which text. Okay. So here's my first tip. Read the title. Then read the questions. Then, quickly glance through the text to get an overall understanding of the context, and take no more than 30 seconds to do this. Because the title might not give you a complete idea of what it's about, so very quickly read through the text. Just take 30 seconds to get an overall understanding. So all the passages, all 4 passages, will be related to the same topic. These are normally the opinions of experts or academics. The 4 questions are then based on these opinions and views. To answer these questions, you'll probably have to decide which opinions are similar and which opinions are different, because maybe A, B and C have similar opinions, but D might have a different opinion, for example. And you can be tested on these similarities and differences. These questions could be about specific details, or they could be about more general ideas. And if we look at this sentence here, which I've taken from the Cambridge English Advanced Handbook for Teachers, it says there is an emphasis on identifying opinions and attitudes expressed across texts. So identifying opinions and attitudes. So you should have a look at some vocabulary related specifically to opinions and attitudes. And if you get a good course book, for example this one, if you type this into your web browser, then there is some really useful vocabulary and grammar for the whole exam in here. And there is even a word list in this course book. And this is the sort of course book where you should try to find specific vocabulary related to opinions and attitudes, as this will be really useful for this part of the exam. I'm going to recommend you to complete a course book while or after doing this video course as well. So let's practice. What I'd like you to do is to open the Cambridge English Advanced 2015 Sample Paper 4 document and look at page 10. So you can find this document if you type in this address into your web browser. Then it will open up a page which looks like this. What you need to do is to scroll down until we find part 6, which is on page 10. Okay. And I've just copied that over into my slide here. But it will be easier for you to complete this exercise using this document. And if you can print it off, that's even better. But it's not necessary. So, once you've got to page 10, I would like you to try to answer these two questions. Question number 1. Does the article talk about the potential advantages and disadvantages of sleep? And question number 2. Do all the authors agree with each other? Now, I'm only going to give you 1 minute in total to try to find the answers to these two questions. So that's really difficult, but this is part of a good exercise to do in the exam at the beginning, just to quickly read through the text. So take 30 seconds and time yourself and try to answer question number 1, and then take another 30 seconds and time yourself and try to find the answer to question number 2. And you can pause this video now, and when you're ready, press play. Okay, so hopefully you've taken 1 minute in total and tried to find the answer for these two questions. And here are the answers. Question number 1, does the article talk about the potential advantages and disadvantages of sleep? Yes, it does. And question number 2, do all the authors agree with each other? No, they don't all agree with each other. And that will often be the case in this part of the reading paper. Some authors will have different opinions to others. Time for my next tip. Tip number 2. Read the first question again. Go through the passage from the top and underline all the relevant parts. So, you should read the first question, go and then look at the passage, go through the passage and underline any part which you think is relevant to the question. Then what you should do is you should actually write the question number. So in the exam, because you have this passage and you have a pencil, you should underline the parts that are relevant to the question and then write the question number next to where you've underlined so you can remember and find it very quickly and easily. If the question is asking you to find a similar or different view, then you might have the answer after underlining just two different parts or two different sections. Maybe you read A and B, you underline the two parts which are relevant, one part in A and one part in B, that are relevant to the question, and you might find that actually these two have a similar view or a different view, and then you have your answer to this question. Then what you should do is you should check the question again after each part you underline to see if you have the answer. So if you've underlined something in the first passage and then you underline something in the second passage, you should then check the answer and quickly check the question, quickly read it again to see if what you've underlined in the two passages, or just in one passage, what you've underlined you should check to see if it answers the question. Okay, time for tip number 3. You should read the second question and see if you can remember where the relevant information was from what you've read so far. If you can't, you should go through the passage again from the top. If you can't remember where the relevant information was, just start again from the top of the passage, underlining anything that is relevant to the second question. And again, once you've underlined something which is relevant to the second question, you should write the question number next to it. And then after you've underlined two sections, you should check the question again and see if you have the answer. If you don't, you need to keep reading, going through the passage from top to bottom until you underline another part, maybe from another passage, maybe from the same passage. And then you should check the question again. What you need to do is to continue doing this until you find that you do have the answer to the question. And finally, you should repeat this process for the rest of the questions. So, read a question, start reading the passage from the top, underline the relevant parts, write the question number next to where you've underlined, look at the question, do you have the answer? If yes, great. If no, keep reading through the passage till you underline another part, write the question number next to it, check the question, see if you have the answer. If you don't, keep reading. If you do, great. And use that method for each of the questions, each of the 4 questions. So let's practice. What I'd like you to do is to look at pages 10 and 11 from this document here. If you type this into your this address into your web browser, you can see this document, and then look at pages 10 and 11, which look like this. Okay, and what I've done is I've put question number 37 here, which is that which expert has a different view from the others regarding whether all animals sleep. And what you should do is you should quickly try to find what each writer's views are about question 37 in order to answer this question. And so in order to complete this task successfully, you'll need to scan quite a lot of the passages. So I've also got some tips for you for how you can scan, and you should have a look at these and try to find which method works best for you. So there are 3 different methods here. There's one on the left, where you scan from left to right in this motion, looking for specific information. Or you can scan from bottom to top and from left to right at the same time, or from bottom to top and from right to left at the same time, trying to find this specific information. Or you can do a zigzag scan, as we see under the text here, from right to left. Okay, so you should pause this video and practice these different scanning methods and see which one you think is most effective for yourself. And then, when you're ready, press play and we will continue with our practice. Okay, so to question 37. What are each writer's views? So again, you can pause this video now and try to scan through the text and find each of the different writers' views about question 37. So pause the video, and when you're ready, press play and we will have a look at these answers. Okay, so hopefully you've done that and you've written down each of the different writers' views about question 37. So let's have a look what I've written. In A, I wrote down that there is clear evidence that all species do spend some time asleep. This I found in the passage. This is what I underlined, and I wrote number 37 next to this part of the passage. I also underlined something in B, which is where they say, most experts believe that sleep is a universal requirement in animals, and I would not differ from that viewpoint. This is again appropriate for the question. And in C, I underlined some animals, though admittedly very few, have no need for it. And again, I underlined this and wrote the question number next to it in the passage. And in D, I underlined no species can survive without sleep. and I wrote the question number next to this passage. Or I underlined this in passage D, and I wrote the question number next to where I underlined. Okay. So if we look at these again, we can see that actually C is different to A, B, and D. Because he says that some animals have no need for sleep, which is different to what A, B, and D say, and they all agree that animals all need to sleep. Okay. So for homework, you should complete sample paper 4 from this website here. Try to complete question 38, 39, and 40 from this passage, or from these passages on pages 10 and 11. And you should also complete similar Part 6 exercises in a course book. I recommended a course book earlier to you, and it's this course book here, which you can access if you type in this into your web browser. This is a really good course book. So what you should do is you should take the tips and technique from this lesson and use them to complete the Part 6 exercises in a course book. Follow the tips I've taught you to complete the exercises in a course book, and keep practicing in this same routine and same method, and this is the best way you can practice for the exam. Okay, and if you would like to do live lessons with me, you can write to me at admin@studentlanguages.com, and I will reply, and we can talk about booking some live lessons together, either for this part of the exam or for a different part of the exam, or to practice English in general. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and in the next video lesson we'll be focusing on the reading paper Part 7.